I like to hear what's going on around the world.
Today's News Talk Radio, TNT.
Are you buying a home? Is it your first home, perhaps? Or maybe you've owned many homes in your lifetime and you're looking to start the process again because it's really fun, right? Well, according to Zillow, the income needed to comfortably afford a home is up 80% since 2020. Wow, my goodness, things escalate, don't they? And according to Zillow, median income has risen 23% in that time. I think some Americans would argue with that. Joining us now is our subject matter expert in all things real estate. He's a real estate broker in San Diego, California. Mark Powell rejoins us on State of the Nation. Mark, it's great to see you.
Great to see you, Brian and Timothy. Thanks for having me on.
Yes. So what's up with this 80% increase in income over the last 4 years that's required for someone to become a home buyer? And what does it mean to home buyers right now?
Well, home prices have went up 38, almost 40% over the last 4 years. And like you said, income went up 28%. But I'm not really sure if that's a real valid measure because I don't know of my income going up 28%. I don't know of anybody's income going up 40%. So people's salaries have not kept up with the cost of homes. Therefore, when a person applies for a loan to get a home, they have to have something called a debt to income ratio. So roughly 35 to 40% of what you make every month should go for homes. Now, when you're making $70,000 or $80,000 a year, like the average salary that people make, and a home is, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, your debt to income ratio doesn't qualify you to buy a home. So the way you negate that is you have to put much more money down. And in some areas, like where I live in Southern California, where the average home is $1 million, these people would have to put $500,000 down in order to qualify for the loan. And that's impossible. And the another thing that's really strange is we're having slower home sales, which would indicate a slump in the market, like home sales are down. They've notched up a bit, but generally they're down. Yet home prices continue to go up. And that's primarily due to government regulations and government mingling in private property rights.
To what extent is the move of the BlackRocks and Vanguards into real estate driving that price elevation as well, Mark?
A lot of these major corporations are investing in these online platforms. You see these platforms where they'll say, hey, you can buy a house. We'll tell you how much it's worth and we'll pay you cash. No open houses, no marketing, no preparation. We'll buy it as is. Now, it might sound like a good deal. For many, it could be a good deal. However, most people should put their house active on the multiple listing service and try and get the most money possible. That involves hiring a realtor because that's what realtors do. They help you sell your house for the most money possible. They'll tell you, hey, paint this room, clean your carpets or replace them, put some flowers out. They help you achieve a higher net profit on the sale. So these major corporations are looking at this and saying, well, this is a big industry. Did you know in 2023, commissions in real estate sales generated $100 billion? So if you're looking at an industry that's generating $100 billion and you're a big corporation, wouldn't you want to get a piece of that? It's capitalistic way. And of course they do. And of course they're working at getting that.
Wow. So Mark, let me just make sure I have this straight. In 2020, a household that was earning, say, $59,000 annually could comfortably afford the mortgage associated with a typical U.S. home and fit within that, 30 to 10% down payment. But now, for that same thing to happen, that same household has to be bringing in about $106,000, $107,000 a year to make that very same mortgage payment on that very same typical home. Am I gathering this right?
Yeah, your numbers are pretty good because if you think about it, if homes went up 38, 40%, in some areas they went up even more, you would essentially almost have to double your income as the home prices almost doubled. And they keep going up. And one of the reasons they keep going up is because government gets in the way. Government is taxing us to death. So what do they do instead of taxing us? They call them permit fees. Oh, you need a permit fee to put in your water heater. Oh, you need a permit fee to put in your gas meter. And these permit fees are actually that. They're fees. They have nothing to do with the installation. You still have to pay to get it installed. They're just fees to get a permit to do that. So the permit fees are another way to tax people. So if government really wanted to lower the cost of building, which permit fees eat up anywhere from 20 to 50% of the cost of building, they would have to drastically reduce or waive permit fees on affordable housing projects. But we haven't seen that happening. And so if it doesn't happen, home prices will continue to go up because they can't control labor costs and they can't control the price of lumber. They can't control how much it costs for a sheet of plywood. Hey, do you guys remember during COVID, and I hate to mention COVID because that was just a horrible period in our lifetime, a sheet of plywood was $100. And it dropped to 79 and people were happy. Wow, it's down to now it's still super expensive, but that's what you build homes out of. You build them out of wood. Not too many homes are built out of plastic or other materials. So the cost of lumber, the cost of nails, they talked about all of these different types of what was that? Logistics things. We have some logistics problems getting the stuff over. So as long as these materials costs are high, labor, every time you turn around, they're jacking up the price of labor. Here in California, our minimum wage is close to $20. It's unbelievable. It's almost unsustainable. In this state, we're at $28 billion deficit. I mean, figure that one out. How did that happen? And throughout the United States, whether it's Chicago or New York, home prices are just skyrocketing, and the average person cannot afford it.
No, in fact, a stick went from $237 to over $15 here, a standard 8-foot length 2x4. I have a friend in North Carolina who was planning on building a house. She had everything in order, and then all of a sudden the wood quote jumped 10 times higher. Her $50,000 house in materials, $50,000 in materials went to over $500,000. It was unreal.
And they can't do it. They're just being priced out. So if somebody wants to do it, let's say they want to do a room addition or something called an ADU, an auxiliary dwelling unit, commonly known as a granny flat. They're, 400 or 500 square feet. You could build those relatively inexpensively. Those have skyrocketed. They're pricing people out. It just seems like the government doesn't want people to own private property. It's almost like they're doing everything they can to get them out of private property. They would much rather have them live in an apartment or even a government subsidized apartment. So we're more reliant on the government. They want us reliant on the government for transportation. They obviously want to get us out of our cars. They want us reliant on them for housing. And we are seeing this steady shift of the stripping of private property rights, the basic foundation of our United States government, the ability to own property. They used to give it away. Remember homesteading? There was a couple of movies about that. Yeah. You'd homestead, you get your piece of land. If you farmed it and you cultivated it and you made it nice, you owned it. Well, those days are long gone. We're making a big shift in the other direction.
I have two friends in the Dakotas that live on land that their great-great-great-grandparents homesteaded, one in North Dakota, one in South Dakota. And I don't know if you saw, Mark, but in the Netherlands, the government is building a neighborhood of apartment buildings, and each car has to be shared by at least 3 families.
Not surprising. They were doing something called a vehicle mileage tax, where they wanted to regulate your car, monitor how many miles you drive, and then tax you on the miles you drive. They're pushing you to buy an electric car so that you're not using fossil fuels, which they're not made out of dinosaurs and grass and weeds. I don't know why they still call them fossil fuels. Get you out of your gas car and put you in this electric car, and to save money, and then now start taxing you either through vehicle miles traveled or through just these draconian DMV licensing fees that you have to pay now. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it really is. And it's virtually impossible to look at the situation, to look at the way it escalated from that homesteading era to where we're at now, where Americans are being priced out. People in all westernized countries are being priced out. We also see our food manufacturing plants blowing up, burning down, all this stuff happening, hundreds of millions of food stock animals just being liquidated, then the bird flu thing, the COVID thing, and not look at the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab and Davos, the CFR, and all these globalist ghouls who want to, ride on Klaus's coattails of you'll own nothing and be happy. Land ownership is probably the biggest hit to that, next to maybe our food supply. Mark, we're almost out of time. Over to you for any final thoughts and any shout outs to where people can find you.
Okay, my final thoughts are I don't want to paint such a bleak picture because you can still own a house, you can still buy a house. I think the average home in the United States now is skyrocketed to 420,000 in some areas, like where we are here, $1 million, which is almost unattainable for most. But do not give up on the American dream. Fight the fight. We will win this. And if you need to get a hold of someone, you want to talk about any real estate related issues, you can look up Powell Brothers Realty or Discovery Property Group in San Diego. We'd be more than happy to answer any of your questions.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mark. Always appreciate your cogent analysis on these things and very much appreciate the words of encouragement there at the end. Just because they want us to rent everything, own nothing, does not mean we have to give up the American dream on their behalf. It is time to fight it. Thank you so much, Mark. We'll look forward to your next appearance.
Thank you, Timothy. Thank you, Brian. We'll see you later.
Stay tuned. We got more State of the Nation coming at you right here on today's News Talk at TNT.